Good morning, first grade. It is Thursday, April 9th, 2020. Today's lesson, we will be moving into chapter 9 of the Boxcar Children Beginning by Patricia McLaughlin. Make sure we get in our happy Thursday, happy Thursday, happy Thursday. And as you already know, our spring break officially starts tomorrow on our happy Friday. So this will be our last boxcar lesson before spring break. So if you'll give me extra good listening today, I'm going to give you a little break from our schoolwork lessons. Chapter 9, today Thursday, April 9th, 2020. Just a reminder, even though the videos show Ms. Sheppard, Ms. Thompson is doing all of the background work to help our videos to be saved in YouTube so that you can watch them at home. I should hear you with me. Boxcar, and more boxcar. Just show me the boxcar. Now, as we start our lesson today, we are getting in a little measuring time. So if you could grab your analog clock, even if you need to hit pause to go get it. On our analog clock, we know we have a shorthand and a longhand. Shorthand on this analog clock is red, longhand is blue. Shorthand points to the hour, longhand points to the minutes. And as we get started this morning, we are actually sometimes in class, we get our Fantastic Five done before lunch, and sometimes we do math groups and we don't get to our Fantastic Five until after lunch and our time lesson. So we actually are going to think about, we were working on our measuring time after lunch during our Fantastic Five math time instead of early morning time when we usually do our lessons on the carpet. So our time is going to be a little bit later today. I notice my shorthand is between the 11 and 12. Now, if my shorthand is between the 11 and 12, that means it's after 11 o'clock, not yet 12. And if my shorthand is between the 11 and 12, that means my hour for my start time, which I'm going to write ST, my hour is 11. I'm going to put my colon to separate my hour from my minutes. I notice as a mathematician, my longhand is straight on the 6. And if my longhand is straight on the 6, it's not 11:06 or 11:06 like it might seem it should be. I know as a mathematician, I'm going to go to my starting point, which is that 12, and I'm going to count by 5s until I get to my stopping point, which is going to be where the longhand stopped. So move your fingers with me. Here we go. Starting point, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And I can tell that my time, if my longhand is on the 6, my minutes are going to be 30. So my time on the clock as we start is 11:30 a.m., which in class would typically be our Fantastic Five or our math groups finishing up after lunchtime. Now, 11:30 a.m. means 30 minutes after 11, 30 minutes past 11. Thinking about our time vocabulary, we know there are 60 minutes in an hour, and if it is 30 minutes past 11, that means a half hour has already passed, so we are going to say it is half past 11. And that little chunk is on your time vocabulary for this week. Now we're going to move really fast through our poems because we're wrapping up the second week with our Boxcar Children Beginning. And you know, by the time we've been working on our poems for a couple of weeks, we start moving through this chunk really, really fast. So fasten your seat belts because I'm going to be rolling along today. The continents. Continents, continents. Do you know your continents? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia. Don't forget Australia. Don't forget Antarctica. Continents, continents. Do you know your continents? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Arthur, do you know your continents? Unknown. Continents lyrics. Continents, continents. Do you know your continents? North, south, east, and west, all around the world. Forgot to remind you, I should hear you with me. Asia, Africa, North and South America, Australia, Antarctica, and Europe too. Arthur, unknown. Should hear you with me naming our 7 continents. North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, Antarctica. Remembering our continent is North America. Map of the United States, our country. Some of you, Lawson, are working on learning all 50 states in the United States. That goes along with that money book that I sent home a couple of weeks ago where you can be working on those state quarters. So that might be a challenge for some of you if you have a little extra time and you need some extra little things to do at home. You could be working on those 50 states in the United States of America. We know our state is North Carolina, and that's where it is located on the map. First book in the Boxcar Children's series, written by Gertrude Chandler Warner. Most of that takes place in a boxcar, but we are reading the Boxcar Children Beginning, which was the prequel published in 2012. And it tells us how that Boxcar Children first book got started and how it became a series. Zipping through our farm visit. My class went to a farm one day. We touched the soft brown cow. We saw where all the milk came from. I understand it now. We stroked the chicken's feathers and we touched a muddy pig. Her hairs were like a bristly brush. Her eyes weren't very big. We watched the goats butt heads and put their hooves up on the wall. A little baby lamb was with her mama in a stall. We ate some carrots from the ground, a fresh and healthy snack. That farm was really neat. I hope my class and I go back. And that was a poem. It had some rhyming words. There were 4 stanzas, 4 verses about a kid who took a trip with his class or her class to a farm. And some of the things you might see on a farm, like some of the things we're seeing in the Boxcar Children Beginning at Fair Meadow Farm. Now, summarizing Hokey Pokey, as we're reading the Boxcar Children Beginning, we are summarizing each chapter at the end, and summarizing means I'm picking out the most important things that happen in the chapter. I should hear you with me as I'm reading my summarizing Hokey Pokey. You might add more of a little singing twist at home. You put the big ideas in, you take the extras out, you put the essentials in, and you cross the repeats out. You do some summarizing and write the paragraph now. That's what it's all about, summarizing. Now we're going to go back. Sorry, wrong slide. You know I do that sometimes. I click on the wrong thing, and you always correct me and let me know and keep me straight to make sure I'm in the right spot on my smartboard slides. Now this is a good review of yesterday's chapter. Yesterday we read chapter 8, which to me was a really fun chapter. The title of chapter 8 was Circus. We made our prediction as readers telling what we thought chapter 8 was going to be about. And when I predicted that the kids were going to have that circus they had been talking about. And as we summarize chapter 8, we see that they did. Reading that summary with me from home, I should hear those loud voices. The families and the guests enjoyed watching the circus. They saw the clowns, acrobats, Meg riding Betty, Benny doing tricks with Joe, and the big elephant and the baby elephant. They watched, applauded, and enjoyed tasty treats. Our AT8, another title for Chapter 8, was Circus Fun. Now we're going to go right into our key ideas for Chapter 8. And our key ideas are our most important things that took place or happened in Chapter 8. I should hear you reading with me. That's your big job as you're listening from home. You are participating at home just like you would be participating if you were sitting on the carpet today. Bullet 1, this is our key idea chunk from Chapter 8. The day of the circus arrived. Bullet 2, Henry was the announcer. And when I read Henry's voice, I read kind of like I was talking in a megaphone, and it sounded a little like this. If you went to a real circus, that's how the announcer would sound. They lots of times talk on one of those megaphones so their voice is really loud so everybody can hear. Jake and Jesse, even though they were called Jake-O and Jess, were the clowns. Meg rode Betty. We know Betty's a cow. Betty plodded. That was that slow, heavy walk. Then she ran and galloped as Meg stood on her back. And I actually was able to show you that illustration of Meg standing up as she was riding on Betty's back. Next bullet, Benny and Joe, the young trainer, and Joseph performed tricks. William, Boots, and Joe, the master trainer, the elephant, and the small surprise, the baby elephant, dazzled the crowd. Remember, Benny was the young trainer. Joe, they called him Joseph. They did tricks. William, who's a little bit older, was the master trainer. Boots, the cow, was the elephant. And Joe was the small surprise, which was a baby elephant. And the crowd was dazzled. That means they couldn't believe what they were seeing when they saw William, Boots, and Joe, the master trainer and the two elephants. Violet didn't really have a lot of action in the chapter, but she had done the behind-the-scenes work. She had done the sewing, probably a lot of work on the costumes, and she had also done the curtains for the performance. Just like Miss Thompson's doing a lot of behind-the-scenes work with Mrs. Sheppard's videos. The crowd cheered and applauded as the performers took a bow. After performers do a performance, typically they take a bow as the crowd applauds and cheers. Now we're going to go right into chapter 9 today, and this is going to be our last chapter. I'm getting really excited about our spring break. We have been working hard, getting used to this school at home. We have been working hard, and you are due for a nice spring break. I hope the weather is going to cooperate and give us lots of that fun in the sun that we enjoy. So last chapter together before our spring break. Starting with our T9, our title of chapter 9. And right now at home, I want you to be making a prediction for chapter 9. The title is The Day After. And Mr. Sheppard today is going to make an out loud prediction. I think that chapter might be about, as a reader, I'm thinking about what happened in chapter 8. I'm thinking that chapter might be mostly about the day after the circus. Shifting my iPad, going to my rocking chair with the birthday bear and hot potato Fred already waiting, getting my granny glasses, and we're moving right into chapter 9. the day after. I need you to be good listeners and good participators. Henry, Jesse, Violet, Meg, and William sat on a blanket under the maple tree. Benny was there too, but he had fallen asleep after the long circus day. Now I'm inferring as a reader, if Benny fell asleep after the circus day, I am inferring that Benny felt tired. Remember, we have character traits, describe characters on the inside. Character descriptions describe what they look like on the outside. Character feelings describe how characters feel, their emotions. I think Benny, I'm inferring, is tired from all that excitement of the circus. Joe stretched out beside him, and we noticed that Benny and Joe have a very special relationship, like some of you have a very special relationship with your dogs that are part of your family. Papa had driven his car to town early to deliver buns to the bakery and check the mail. Remember, Mama bakes buns to take to the market to sell. I'm inferring Mama did the baking, Papa is doing the delivering. You were wonderful, all of you, said Mama. Your costumes were fine, Violet, said Sarah. Meg helped, said Violet. Now the day after, the circus is over, but they're talking about all the exciting things that happened during the circus. And my box has a new cover now, said Jake. Did you do that? Violet smiled. I used the small screwdriver you gave me, and Papa helped me cut a board the right size. Thank you, Violet. Remember, Violet is a fixer. She's a mender. Those would be character traits. She's good at fixing things. She's good at mending. She's good at sewing. You're welcome. You were a funny clown, Jake. Thank you again, Violet. Jesse was a good clown partner, said Jake. It took lots of practice for us to learn how to fall down together. When you go to a circus, even though the performers make it look very simple, to make all those things work out the way that they do when you're watching, the performers have to do lots of practicing. Everyone laughed. Betty was good, said Meg. You were good, said Sarah. Henry, you were a great announcer. You had to make it all work. Maybe when I grow up, I'll be a circus announcer, said Henry. I'd say by the look of your globe inside that you'll be an explorer, said Jake. Henry thought. Now we know Henry loves the globe. And Jake says, I love the way that you like learning about new places on that globe. Jake says, I think when you grow up, you might be an explorer. An explorer is a person who likes to go off and find new things and new places. And remember, lesson in life, when Henry grows up, when you grow up, you can be anything you want to be. I like that, he said, smiling. An explorer. The chief explorer, said Jake. I like chief too, said Henry. I loved being an elephant trainer, said William. I really did. You know, there was a time yesterday when I really, really believed Boots was an elephant and Joe. William saying Boots and Joe look so much like elephants that I began to believe that they really were elephants. And then William repeated what he had said the day before. It was the best day of my life. They all looked up as Papa drove his gray car up the dirt road to the driveway. For a moment, Papa didn't get out of the car. He just sat there in the car, Now I wonder why Papa sits and doesn't get out of the car. Then slowly he opened the door and got out. He walked over to them. He carried a package. Wonder what's in the package. He held the package out for Jake. Your park cart, self-correcting. I'm going to reread. Your park cart, self-correcting. Sorry guys, Miss Sheppard's tongue's tied up in a knot. As readers, if it doesn't look right, sound right, or make sense, we self-correct as we reread. That didn't look right, it didn't sound right, and it surely didn't make sense. Let me try that for time number 3. Your part came, he said. Now I'm thinking as a reader, the reason the Clarks stopped at Fairmeadow Farm is because their car broke down and they had been waiting for their car to be fixed. When Papa says, your part came, I wonder if he means the part to fix the car that they had been waiting for. Now that little symbol means there's going to be either a change in time or a change in place. Sometimes it shows a time lapse, sometimes it shows a change in setting. Everything changed that morning. A little bit of foreshadowing. In the heads of all the children, nothing was the same. There would be no more walking to school together and playing tag all the way home. No more stories of heroes and winged horses, even when the lights were out. No more sleeping in the barn hideaway. No more frosting buns in the kitchen. No more watching Meg's hair flying out behind her as she rode Betty. No more circuses. The kids know that everything's getting ready to change. They're not going to be able to do the things together that they've been doing. I wonder why everything's getting ready to change. When Benny woke up and they told him, he burst into tears. He clutched Joe in his arms, rocking back and forth, back and forth. Now, as a reader, if Henry burst into tears, I'm inferring that he was very upset, he was very sad. I'm inferring that when it said they told him, I'm inferring they told him the part came and everything was getting ready to change. When Sarah saw Benny burst into tears, she burst into tears too. We won't be far away, said Sarah. You will come and visit us. She wiped her eyes and wrote down an address on a piece of paper. Here is where we'll be. Where should I put this so you can find it when you need it? Benny's upset, she's upset, so she says we won't be too far away. She writes her address down on a piece of paper. She says, where should I put it so you'll be able to find it? Make a prediction. Where do you think they're going to put the Clark's new address? The cookie jar with our money, said Jessie. That's the safest place. Remember, the Aldens have a cookie jar that has money, but the money is only to be used if there's an emergency. So Jessie says, why don't we put the address in the cookie jar with the emergency money so it will be safe? That is what I will do, said Sarah. Don't forget, we are in the cookie jar. Now, when she says we are in the cookie jar, she doesn't mean they climbed into the cookie jar. She means their address of where the Aldens can find them is in the cookie jar. This made the children smile even though they were sad. Jake won't be able to leave today, said Papa. Maybe you can fill up today with fun. No one spoke. Chores first, of course, Papa said cheerfully. Go on, go on. And that's an illustration of, I think, probably Benny and Joe. Henry, Jesse, Meg, and William all went to the barn. Benny and Joe followed behind. Violet went to watch Jake work on the car engine. Remember, Jake's a fixer. The car part came in, so Jake, if he's working on the engine, I'm inferring he's trying to fix it so he could get the car to start running so they'll be able to go. The hood was folded back, and when she bent over to look, Jake turned his head to look at her for a moment. Then he went back to work. The barn was dark and cool and quiet. Joe jumped into a pile of bedding hay. Benny sat with him. Seems like Benny and Joe are usually spending a lot of time together. They have a very special relationship. I'd like to put the smell of this barn into a little jar and take it with me, said Meg. No one said anything. Henry and William began to shovel old hay out of the stalls and throw it out the back door in a pile. Maybe the car part won't work, whispered Jessie to Meg. Maybe the car won't start. Now the kids know if the car part works, the car starts, the Clarks are going to have to leave. I think maybe they're thinking if the part doesn't work, they can stay a little bit longer. Meg smiled. That would be nice. Betty walked into the barn and came over to where Meg stood. Betty nosed Meg's shoulder, rubbing her long face there. Meg's eyes filled with tears. I'm inferring she's sad, she's emotional, she's upset. That's how I infer she's feeling. I'll miss this old cow, she said. And you can't put Betty in a jar for me to take along. Jessie put her arms around her. We will always be friends, said Jessie. We will always be family, said Meg. Beautiful lesson in life. Even if they are separated because the Clarks leave, Jessie and Meg know they will always be friends and they will always be family. That's a beautiful lesson in life. Suddenly, there was the sound of a car starting outside. Henry and William looked up and stopped working. Meg and Jessie looked at the barn door. Violet stood there. Well, Jake fixed the car, she said sadly. That is the end of chapter 9. And I'm going to turn my iPad around, and we as readers are going to go right into our summary of chapter 9. When we summarize, we'll be telling what the chapter was mostly about. So let's go ahead and summarize chapter 9. I should hear you with me as I'm summarizing on the smart board. I should hear you summarizing with me from home. S9, which is our summary of chapter 9. The families talked about the fun things that had happened during the circus. Papa came back from town with the car part to fix the Clark's car. The kids knew everything was getting ready to change. They put the address of the Clarks in the what? Yes, in the cookie jar. As they spent their last day together, Jake fixed the car. Now, that's a good thing that Jake fixed the car, because that was one of our big problems at the beginning of the book. But it's a bad thing because that now means the families are going to be separated because the Clarks are going to have to leave. Now our 18:9, another title for chapter 9. Our title should be giving us ideas about what the main idea or the main chunk of the chapter was. Another title for chapter 9. Remember, Patricia McLaughlin called it the day after. Another title for chapter 9 is The Fixed Car. And that gives us a wrap up of chapter 9. I hope you have a great Thursday. I'm going to need for you to work really hard to keep the first 9 chapters in your brain over our spring break. Typically, I would have gone ahead and tried to finish up this chapter book before our spring break, but because we're not together in class, we're going to have to come back and finish that after spring break. So when we come back, we'll be ready to move into chapter 10. We'll do a big review before we start, but this will be our last chapter. I hope you have a great day at home with your families. I hope you have a happy Thursday.